My name is Neil Patel, and I help companies generate more revenue through digital marketing. Entrepreneur Magazine said I was the #1 marketer in the world, and they also said I created one of the 100 most brilliant companies. I started my first website at the age of 16. I took all the money that I earned from working at an amusement park, and I paid a marketing firm. The marketing firm provided no results, and I quickly learned that I wasn't alone. Out of my frustration and from being broke, I had no choice but to learn marketing. My first client was a power supply manufacturer. I helped them generate another $25 million in sales, and from that point, I realized the power of marketing. I helped everyone that I could, and I built my reputation by being honest and over-delivering. I've helped companies like Google, NBC, Viacom, General Motors, eBay, but nothing's more satisfying than helping small business owners succeed. I founded 4 multi-million-dollar companies, and I've learned all the mistakes that you should avoid. I've written about them on Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., Fast Company, and even on my own blogs. It's so awesome to know that colleges from all around the world are teaching my material in their classroom. Over the years, I've received awards from the President of the United States, the House of Representatives, and the United Nations. People believe marketing is expensive and difficult. Fortunately, that's not true. There is a formula. Even if you don't have a technical bone in your body, you can get results. And my mission is to share this formula with you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. We're going to be talking about 2024 and how you can set up your marketing blueprint correctly for both SEO and paid media. So let's get started. We're NP Digital. We're sorry about that. I have pneumonia. But we're NP Digital. We're an ad agency. We're in 19 plus countries. We have over 750 employees. We won a lot of awards for our marketing strategy because the tactics and strategies work. So when we break down what you guys should do for your blueprint for both SEO and paid in 2024, keep in mind it's coming from a place where we've implemented, tried this stuff, tested this stuff, and we know it produces results. So I'm Neil Patel. I'm the co-founder of NP Digital. We also have Nikki Lamb with us today and Chris Moreno. Nikki, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm the Senior Director of SEO here at NP Digital, and I have been helping to oversee our SEO offering and team members for almost 5 years here now, but I've had over a decade of experience working with some of the biggest brands in the world. Excited to be here today.
Cool.
Howdy, folks. My name is Chris Moreno. I oversee the paid media team here at NP Digital. That's all things paid search, paid social, programmatic, and performance creative. Looking forward to sharing kind of what our team is doing and prepping for what you should be kind of testing going into 2024.
So the marketing landscape continually evolves, right? With multiple channels, algorithm updates, new tools like AI. So things are evolving fast, and we're going to break down how you can end up creating your blueprint for 2024. Well, first off, consumer behaviors and preferences are changing. You need to adapt with them. For example, a lot of people now purchase on social media. That wasn't the case, call it, 4 or 5 years ago, or even 2 years ago. A lot of social platforms didn't have the ability for people to just go and buy. So things are changing at a very rapid pace, and you need to adapt with them. When you don't adapt with them, you'll find that your traffic doesn't grow as fast and your conversion rates start tanking. So with the new marketing channels, there's this issue. There's the trends out there, and then there's the audience. You need to find that right sweet spot, that matches the audience with what people are looking for. So then that way you can end up generating more sales. As Maxwell from HubSpot says, with the new marketing channels and trends constantly popping up, it can be difficult to know where your target audience actually is. Not only do you need to know where they spend their time, but also how they like to shop. And the reason I put out this quote here is the last part. I really love the part where he talks about how they like to shop. And that's where we at NP Digital see a lot of companies make mistakes. They're like, okay, people will buy on Amazon, people will buy from the website, or they'll sign up through the website, and that's it. But that's not the case. You can collect leads from some of these platforms. For example, we're in the B2B sector, right? We have clients that pay us hundreds of thousands a year. We have clients that pay us multi-million dollars a year. Did you know sometimes customers hit us up through direct messages on LinkedIn, and that'll be considered a lead, right? That's one way that a potential customer may like to shop that a lot of companies take for granted. How many companies in the B2B sector actually check their LinkedIn on a daily basis? So this is really important, because if you don't understand the trends and the ways that people like to shop, you'll start missing out on a lot of revenue potential. Now, the formula isn't a magic formula. There's no one size fits all. It's not as simple as you follow this playbook and it works. You got to actually adapt to the market you're in, to the customer that you're in as well. And by the way, we just got a message. Someone's just like, check your in-mail, Neil. You got a lead. Thank you very much. So with the marketing blueprint, there's three main buckets: reaching your customers, SEO, and paid media. I know it's empty here, but don't worry. We're going to help you fill it in. And we're going to start with reaching customers. So first off, reaching customers in 2024. Let's start filling it in. So the first thing that you need to know is social search and generative AI are disrupting the search landscape. According to a Google VP, young people like Gen Z prefer TikTok or Instagram when they're performing a search. If you notice, they're starting to put a lot more social content within the search results. They're also answering, or they're starting to answer questions when people are typing in long tail queries. And when I mean long tail, I'm not talking about 2-3 word phrases. I'm talking about people typing in a sentence, right? And when people are typing in sentences and asking a question, you're starting to see generative AI actually answer questions. 25% of internet users between 18 and 54 prefer to search on social media over search engines. And this is really important, because it's not now just Google as a search engine or just Bing. Searches everywhere, including TikTok, including Instagram, including LinkedIn. And you're seeing a lot of these players adapt and also start using generative AI as well. And with social media, it is a huge opportunity, especially when it comes to commerce. And I was talking about this a little bit earlier, in which a lot of people are purchasing on social media. 17% of consumers and 27% of millennials have bought a product directly in a social media app in the last 3 months. This wasn't possible years ago. Things are changing. If you're not out there, if you have a physical product, you're not promoting it on TikTok, you're losing out. A lot of people ignore channels like TikTok and be like, oh, it's just young people. Well, young people also spend money and they're purchasing. So you got to adapt with the platforms. And even in B2B, we're seeing leads generated from places like Instagram and TikTok, not as much as LinkedIn, not as much as YouTube or Facebook, but we're seeing it at a much bigger pace than we were a year or two ago. And video is also a must-have in your strategy. People prefer all kinds of videos. The number one format is music videos. Then it's some sort of entertainment like comedy or a meme. And then it's tutorial and how-tos. Live videos, like people streaming and going live, that's also liked as well and preferred. But when you look at the numbers, people really prefer entertainment type videos or music videos, but it doesn't mean the other video formats don't work. And US marketers spend roughly 22% of their digital marketing budget on video. It's something that you can't ignore. If you look at the attention, a lot of the platforms are pushing video hard. Hence, if you're not leveraging video within your marketing, you're not going to reach your ideal customer. And you're also seeing a continuing focus on personalization. Just imagine going to Amazon. I don't have a dog. If they started showing me dog food everywhere, the conversions are going to drop. People always want a personalized experience. If you can't provide a personalized experience, you're not going to do as well. When you go to the neilpatel.com blog, and it'll ask you, I want to see content around, and you can select a drop down and pick if it's e-commerce or B2B marketing or whatever it may be, or social media or SEO. It's all example of personalization. Some personalization, you can just show people what they want based on where they came from or other signals you have. Sometimes you can ask people and then personalize the experience based on that. But when you personalize, you can generate more revenue. A study from McKinsey found that companies that excel at personalization can generate 40% more revenue. Data privacy is also top of mind right now, has been for a few years, and it's a growing concern, and it's getting more and more popular. 52% of US adults say that they decline to have their data tracked. We see this. We're in the marketing realm. It's even worse for our website. We ask people if they want to be tracked or not, which you should, and people have a right to their own data. And we see closer to 80%, it's in the high 70s of people who don't want to be tracked. It's a big difference, right? And more people, 48%, would feel more comfortable sharing their data if they knew that it could be deleted or it wasn't going to stay in a company's database for a long period of time or any time. So now that we filled out reaching customers, Nikki is going to end up breaking down SEO, and then Chris is going to break down paid media.
Yeah, so let's jump into it. There are some new rules to play by in the game of SEO. And the main reason for that is because we all know, or hopefully most of you know, that Google is getting prepared to roll out SGE, which is Search Generative Experience. This is their new AI-powered search experience. And it is shaping up to be the biggest change in how Google displays their search results in their 25-year history. So there's a lot of, fear and uncertainty on the horizon, and it's warranted because we've seen that as Google changes and overhauls the SERP, there's the likelihood that those who are not investing and optimizing and playing by these new rules have the potential to see decreases in traffic. But I'm going to walk you through a few different ways that you can start to prepare. And I want to kick off by just saying that search has been so volatile lately. It seems like there's a new algorithm update rolling out like every couple of weeks, right? It's a lot to deal with. But the widespread adoption of generative AI is going to change the game and raise the bar, because your success as a marketer will now be tied to your ability to create content experiences that are better than what anybody out there is now spinning up very quickly with a ChatGPT or a Claude AI prompt. So you really have to start thinking about how to make your content stand out, how to make sure that your content is different and better than what other people are throwing together with an AI prompt. And one of the key ways that you're going to be leveraging your content going forward is to get mentioned across the web. I know there's been a lot of talk out there lately about, are links dead? Do they no longer matter? There was an interview with Gary Ish, who works for Google, where he said links are not a top 3 ranking factor. But think about this for a moment. He didn't say they're not a top 20 ranking factor. He didn't say they're not a top 10 ranking factor. He just said they're not a top 3 ranking factor. And in that same interview with Google's Gary Ish, he says that links are important. I've also personally read all of the SGE documentation from Google, and they mention that SGE corroborates all of those AI snapshots that are now populating at the top of the SERP. They have to corroborate that AI created information with reliable sources across the web. So I know there's a lot of chatter out there, but I'm here to tell you that getting mentioned and linked to across the web is still going to be critically important. Now, as I mentioned, your content strategy is going to be a key way that people talk about you and link to you. So what I want to make sure you're thinking about is not just going out and doing competitive and gap research and trying to create the same type of or same piece of content that your competitors are creating. You have to try to do something that is different and better than what already exists. And I'm going to walk you through a few different examples of how you can do that. But the type of mindset you want to have overall is think about leveraging something that you have that nobody else has. That's your own proprietary and unique data from your website. And then also think about leaning into things that are timely and buzzworthy. So if you're creating really good content that's better, that pulls in something you have that nobody else does, and you're tying it into something timely and buzzworthy, this is how you get linked to and mentioned from across the web. Now, leveraging proprietary or unique data sets is one of the key ways that we do get our clients mentioned and linked to across the web at NP Digital. So I'm going to briefly walk you through these 5 different strategies that we've leveraged and how they're a little bit different. Now, using data studies is when you leverage unique or proprietary data to create a piece of content that's actually noteworthy and buzzworthy. This piece here from a financial publication earned mentions from all across the web, from top tier publishers, mind you, like CNBC, Go Banking Rates, stuff like that. But CNBC didn't just link to this data study where we, published all these online shopping trends. They also mentioned the name of the brand that created it. And those mentions, as Google rolls out SGE, you're not guaranteed a link to your website. But if you can get mentioned at the very top of the SERP, there's definitely going to be a lot of value to that. Now, another type of way that you can create something that's new and different than what's already out there is by creating some type of visual storytelling. And this is something that we're just testing out at NP Digital, but it's really about taking something creative and turning it into a piece of digital artwork, something that's timely, newsworthy and buzzworthy. It takes a little bit of out of the box thinking and some creativity, and as well as some testing to figure out what's going to resonate with your audience. But again, this approach is about not just creating the same pieces of, text-based content that probably already exist out there a million times. It's finding a new visual way to engage with your audience. And then, of course, contests are a great way to provide something of value to your audience. We have done things like a sweepstakes of how to pursue your dream. And what's awesome about this is it generates a ton of buzz and interest. This particular piece of content garnered over 75% of its visits from new users, people who hadn't already been to this website. It got backlinks from all across the web. It was syndicated through its press release like hundreds of times, and it performed really, really well when we got influencers on board. And then regional data rankings, those are similar to data studies, except you're specifically pulling in data that people will react to at the regional level. Think, this was America's Best Roadside Eats. Those cities and states that get voted and ranked on these listicles, they're excited about that. They want to talk about the content. They want to engage with it. And so this is a natural way to get people linking to you, talking about your content. And lastly, surveys are a way to create a piece of data that is unique that nobody else has. This piece was all about surveying and figuring out what skills people were looking for as they were trying to hire talent in 2022. When that study was published, this picked up buzz and links and mentions from high authority educational colleges all across the country. And we all know that as Google continues to lean into EEAT, which I'll cover shortly, that getting those reputable, authoritative sites like colleges and universities to link back to you is so valuable. And I said we'd talk about EEAT in a moment. So let's dive into this. EAT, Expertise, Authority, and Trust, is a framework that Google has been putting out there for content creators for well over a decade now. But they've recently added this new E, which stands for experience. And this is incredibly important when you think about planning for 2024. In their documentation about SGE, Google says that they hold their SGE snapshots to an even higher standard when it comes to providing information that needs to be accurate. And so this expertise, experience, authority, and trust framework is going to be something that you have to lean into to build trust with your audience, but also to demonstrate to Google that you are an authority in your market. Now, let's take a look at something that is just absolutely table stakes at this point, and that is author bios. This is one of the key ways that you can demonstrate EEAT on your website. This example you see on screen is from Adobe, and what they're doing is actually pretty cool. They've got all these experts creating content for their website, but they don't just give them an author bio page. They're doing so much more than that. They are putting the name of these content creators in their URLs, in the page's meta description. They're talking all about who this author is all over their author bio page. And they're doing a fabulous job at leaning into EEAT. Now, they're also leaning into this concept that Google is pushing really hard right now, which is first-person experience. The way that Adobe is doing this is by weaving in expert quotes from that food photographer all throughout their content. They also have first-person interviews with this food photographer where they share what inspires them, how they got into food photography. Again, this is the perfect example of leaning into EEAT and demonstrating that on your website to Google. Now, the last thing that I want you to take away from what Adobe is doing really well is they also had that food photographer, Alex, create presets for photo editing food photography. So when you're reading this content from Adobe, you're not just getting tips for food photography, they're offering something of true value. You can download these photo editing presets, and that helps you speed up your food photo editing. Again, it is user-generated content spun up to really meet all of these EEAT signals, and it's executed flawlessly. Now, I totally understand that EEAT is way easier to talk about for a lot of you than it is to actually identify where my weakness is on my website. What do I build into my 2024 roadmap that's actually going to help me improve EEAT? So what I recommend that you do is you build yourself a rubric or a scorecard. Sit down, think about all of the different ways that people in your industry figure out which brands to trust, who to purchase from, who to trust their content. Create a rubric that outlines all of those different signals. It could be on-site reviews. It could be an About Us page. It could be author bio pages. Add those into a document. Look at all of the top performers in your industry and start to grade yourself against what's going right. Then leverage those gaps and those weaknesses that your website has to build your roadmap for 2024 and tangibly increase your EEAT. All right, my third tip for you today is also really important, and that is to cover your topics thoroughly. You can use a tool like Answer the Public to do this research and help guide your content creation strategy, but I just wanted to give you a quick example of why this is important. Think about if you were going to be renovating your home and you find a general contractor that you're potentially interested to work with, and you're asking them about cabinetry and all the different things about picking a countertop, and they're giving you great answers and inspirational answers. But then you start asking your contractor about flooring or windows or paint, and they just stare at you blankly. You're not going to want to work with that contractor to renovate your house, right? So take that same way of thinking when it comes to your content strategy. If you want to be seen as trustworthy and authoritative and helpful to your audience, you have to answer all of the questions that they have about your field. And if you want a live example of somebody who's doing this really well, of course, just look at Neil's blog. There's not a question you have about marketing that you can't get answered from Neil. And that is the same type of focus that you want to take into your 2024 strategy. Now, I also want to mention how critically important it is to optimize for long tail. I know Neil already talked about this, right? But this is going to be even more important in 2024 because as Google continues to push you to be more conversational in your search, which is a huge focus when it comes to SGE, you're going to see a decline in head terms. People are now going to be searching these really long, complex things. One of the examples that Google has used in some of their SGE documentation is, what's the best national park to travel to if I've got a dog and 2 kids and don't own much hiking gear? And Google is getting way better at answering these types of queries moving forward. So it doesn't matter if a search term only has 10, 20, 30 searches a month. You don't want to discount those long tail searches because they are going to give you a better shot to rank. They're going to be less competitive, and they're going to give you an opportunity to potentially show up in the new conversation mode that Google's rolling out with SGE. And then I also wanted to share another example in the wild that is something you can dig into and take away. This summer, my husband and I were preparing to travel with our baby across the globe. And as you can imagine, Google was my best friend at the time. I was doing a ton of Google searches about, do I rent a car seat when I get there? Do I travel with one? And I came across this website called Trips with Tykes. And that website stuck with me, and I want it to stick with you too, because when I started trying to figure out how is this little website that I've never heard of before, this brand I'm not familiar with, ranking so well in SGE, I found a few different things. One, this author that publishes all of the content on the website, she has multiple kids of her own and they travel all the time, ski trips, trips to Disney. So her content absolutely is leaning into that first person experience that Google has told us is critically important. But she also, as you can tell from the screenshot, car seats on airplanes, this is just part 1. She is covering her topics so thoroughly. There's nothing you can't get answered about traveling with a kid on this website. So why I want you to take this away is because you do not have to be an Adobe, like a big global giant, to get these things right and to win with the rollout of SGE. You just have to follow the tips I'm giving you today, invest in your content strategy, cover your topics thoroughly, be really helpful to your users, and you can set yourself up for success. Another thing you don't have to do is invest overly in net new content creation. So this framework you see on the screen here leans into, all these different R's to help you get more out of what you already have. With SGE and honestly with all these broad core algorithm updates and helpful content updates, Google wants to see that the content on your website is helpful. And if you've got blog posts that are good topics, but they're too thin, or maybe they're hard to digest because you haven't incorporated imagery and header structures that make it easy to read, you want to go back and you want to refresh that content. You want to reformat it so that it's helpful. It's the proper length for the query that the user has. So take a look at a framework like this. And as you're thinking about what content you need to create net new for 2024, don't forget to go back and prune and refresh and reformat the content that you already have invested in creating. And I know Neil touched on this at the beginning of this webinar, so I'm just going to be backing up what he has said. Invest in video content. Now, there are tools out there I've seen recently that will blow your mind with AI video content creation. But I will say, real video with real people giving real tips on how to do things, this is still a really great way to set your content apart. And AI is not widespread used for video creation yet. I know everybody's using it to generate text-based content, but clickable, playable videos are in SGE's AI snapshots. And this gives you an opportunity to have a better shot at taking up shelf space on SGE. But it also gives you an opportunity to reach new users on YouTube. We love tools like Answer the Public and vidIQ to go do research, find out queries that are relevant to your audience, where people are also searching on YouTube. And sometimes you're going to find keywords like this example, how to teach my kid to ride a bike, where the search volume on YouTube is like 20 times the search volume on Google. So if you're creating this type of video, not only do you have a great shot at ranking in the SGE carousel, but now there's also thousands of people on YouTube that you have the opportunity to reach as well. So I hope that gives you a good idea of the different ways that you can lean into these strategies to help plan and prepare for 2024 when it comes to SEO.
Awesome. And I'm going to jump in right into the paid side and kind of briefly talk about the changes to the paid media landscape going into 2024 and what you should keep an eye on and consider testing. Really, it's just consider testing and understand that a lot of this is going to be influenced by shifts in the media landscape, the platform, as Neil mentioned, the consumers, but also heavily based on AI's influence into advertising in these platforms, and a lot of things to consider and test. First things first, as we all know, coming into 2024, Google Chrome is set to eliminate third-party cookies. They're starting off at the beginning of Q1 and eliminating 1% of user base to start and to kind of move into its testing phase throughout the year. But what this means for you, and we've been planning for this all the way from last year and 2 years ago, and they kept delaying the rollout, is maximizing your use of first-party and zero-party data. And as Neil mentioned, what that means from a personalization experience on your website and giving those experiences to what they're asking for those users. So, next slide, Nikki, is really, as we identify what first-party data is, that's your email marketing capture, that's your opt-in to text messaging. Those are your sort of first-party captured signals of intent from data. And then the zero-party data is other information and other interactions on your website that you could also capture. So as Neil mentioned on the blog, to personalize, you're asking for an input as to what content you want to experience on the website. You could also do that with other intent signals on your site to capture information that you can then add to your first-party data to make that match of specific interest to your users. So you're going to want to continue to invest in how you capture and build and cultivate a relationship with your audience. That's going to be one way. Another way is to build trust through data practices and to deliver value to your audiences and your prospecting audiences. And you should prioritize the investment in data governance. So it's not only capturing that data, it's how you ensuring you're complying with that data from CCPA and GDPR and other data compliance regulations that are rolling out. You're really setting up the right governance to capture and to ensure you're protecting your customers' data privacy. And then leverage the tools and the features within these platforms to maximize the use of certain functions. One of the ways to do so is within Google Ads, to opt into consent mode with enhanced conversions and make sure you could enable the best matching data from conversions to post-conversion that could technically be lost due to user consent. Other ways is to use GA4's predictive audiences and making sure you've opted in to understand more about your audience signals that could be mapped into audience analysis based on cohort information to allow you to get more signals and insights. So there's certain features and functions within the platform that you should be opting in to take advantage of, along with your sort of data compliance and data setup to capture that information. When thinking about ads, and as Nikki mentioned, going into what the landscape of the search engine result page is going to look like, it's, for what the SEO side is entailed, you have to be able to adapt to these sort of new SGE, but that's probably providing that sort of long tail sort of information that's accurate, provide the answer that they're looking for, build trust and build authority. On the paid media side, you're thinking about those landing pages simply from a conversion standpoint. And right now it's still a gray space for where Google and Microsoft are going to be rolling out these experiences, how they're going to continue to roll out these experiences. But what we do know is all of what SGE is providing that answer. And so if your landing pages need to shift from not only being keyword intent based and optimizing towards a quality score, but also providing that information that's going to provide the answer while giving the user an option to also convert, to buy, to submit a lead, and capture those conversion signals as well. You're going to have to understand a little bit of both in terms of what you're creating for organic ranking, but also mimic some of that in your landing page experiences. This is heavily where CRO is going to come in for your play, and how you optimize all traffic you're getting to drive to that landing page, but keeping in mind the user experience first. Adapting your ad strategies. This is one thing to just note. There's no concrete answer yet as to how definite we are going to be with specific ad types showing up in SGE, but we do know is you need to make sure that you're just being agile and staying informed as to what's coming with the experiences. Should you work with an agency or a Google marketing platform, certified agency partner, you want to try to opt into any betas or alphas that you can that might entail. This might be a sort of a opportunity for the new SGE experiences, but all in all, you have to be doing the best practices and the things that are going to be optimizing your ads for specifically potentially that placement. So making sure you're diverse and testing across the different ad experiences that Google offers, keeping your campaigns up to date with the right technology, enabling whether it's bid strategies or enhanced conversions, or opting into certain signals that's going to allow you to open up these opportunities and target various Google ad strategies. So that's one thing, is just staying up to date with your rollout of your ad experience. At first, be up to bat to try to be within this placement once it kind of becomes more definitive. And that's just on the Google side. All things kind of going into Google Ads. You can think of it from keeping your eye on everything related to AI, not only just for Google Ads, but you could use AI, whether it's GPT or Bard, or Claude. You could do a couple of things. You could ask it to create Google scripts that allow you to get more visibility or more advanced features to your current ads. You could ask it to create ad copy variations, image creation, automation, and streaming enablement for you to be more productive for your marketing. But in reality, you adapting to using some of these features and functions is only going to prepare you for what's to come as these UIs and these platforms actually enable more AI-based experiences and conversational experiences directly within the ad build-out and the ad experience itself. Some specific ones that are on the rise now on the paid social side and even on the Google side are typically around image creation features. This is where they're starting first. And this is whether you're an e-com-based marketer or just a marketer that doesn't have access to a lot of creative. You can start to automatically change background information, cut and resize images automatically. It might be a little bit more predictive in giving you information as to what has performed best for you in the past. And you should try images like these to then be able to kind of resize in scripts. So I know Google, Meta, TikTok, Snapchat have these features rolled out already, and there's going to be more AI-based tools coming in the near future. For Meta in particular, what we know is just recently in October, they announced these first 3 tools through the Meta AI sandbox that are really essentially all about testing. The background generation tool automatically creates multiple background images to complement different products within Creative based on text inputs. So you'll be able to create a prompt, input the text, and it'll start generating specific background changes for you. The image cropping tool automatically adjusts the aspect ratio, which is very important because there's a lot of different placements across different devices, across the different inventory of all of Meta's ad platforms. So this allows you to create multiple image assets for all those variational placements. And then lastly, text variation tool allows you to create multiple versions of ad copy with different audiences. So you could have and leverage universal ad copy for a more broader audience, or you could create and prompt specific audience-based ad copy based on who you're targeting in your ad groups. So not only are there tools directly built within the platform, there's a lot of AI tools that have popped up now that you're able to tap into the API and the open source of ChatGPT and other sort of machine learning platforms. One of them on the creative side, which is AdCreative.ai, allows you to trust and generate hundreds of variations of ads in seconds, right? You could upload specific ad creative or theme of creative, and it starts to generate a lot of versions for iterative testing. It'll kind of auto prompt. Again, same sort of aspect of getting a lot of output of creative sizes for the different placements for the different platforms. But there's a lot of tools out there, from Pencil to Clickable to Hunch Ads or Ad Pilot. There's a lot of tools that you should technically vet for yourself and find out which ones are going to be the features that work for you. But the output and the generation of hundreds of variations of creative to test is something to consider, knowing that you're going to try to find those champion ads that fully work and find streamlines in the efficiency of getting the output that used to be done manually up until now. Other things to identify in the AI space or test is AI-powered analysis tools, and AdScan.ai is just one of a couple where you can actually analyze the score of your ad and actually understand where your ad aligns to the competitive landscape, to your competitive brands. Your ad based on the creative, the ad copy, the audience, and obviously ingested and connected to your ad account. It could align to your spend versus the competitor spend and see where you're performing compared to the competitive set. You can get ad creative ideation from it. You could see what to pick up on, what your competitive set or other brands have learned or failed from, and use that to your advantage. But there's a couple of tools out there that just analyze the performance or the performance predictive aspect of whether an ad is good or not good. And how to try to find some inspiration to advertisers out there that we know are winning based on the amount of revenue or spend they have towards a certain ad type. Other ways to test are thinking about not only just in the ad space, but thinking about into what Google's been doing all along for years. And this is where they had a rebranding initiative where it's always been AI powered. Google's machine learning models and their sort of automated tools that we've had from automated placements. It's always been a part of our strategies in the past, but I think they shifted from it being automated or using the term automated to be powered by AI. And one of those things was the gradual rollout from not only being an exact match sort of advertiser or a phrase match, sort of manual bidding based advertisers of the past, to moving towards opting into broad match and connected with a sort of the proper bid strategies. And the only way you could do those to really maximize efficiency is understanding what sort of other data you have to ingest to bid to what matters when it comes to this strategy. But as Nikki mentioned, those long tail queries, those sort of, they're not one or two or three sort of keyword based queries anymore. There's a lot of context as to what people are inserting into the search results, and all searches are unique. And the context that Google can now pick up based on that query, it could align specifically to broad match. But if you're going to go with the broad match strategy, or you're going to test and leverage Performance Max, which allows you to test a lot of different inventory, and you kind of hand over the keys to Google to find the best result, you're going to want to make sure that you match it with the right bid strategies. And the only way to invest in your right strategy, leveraging a bid strategy, is what data ingestion you could feed back into Google that it's a specific conversion action that you're really trying to get. Another sort of automated function that you could test is leveraging creative assets for responsive search ads. So historically, there's been ways where you used to have dynamic ad features. You used to have standard text ads that you were able to create. Now a lot of it is all responsive. That you still upload the headline, the headlines, the 15 headlines. The 4 descriptions, maximizing 90 characters, but in reality, that's all human input. That's a lot of variations that you're testing. That's a lot of input if you're thinking about one RSA per ad group, per campaign, and you could have hundreds of ad groups. What this feature allows you to do, it actually can scan the landing page of your destination for your ad. It'll actually review existing ad copy that's performing well in the campaign, and it'll review the keyword themes and subset and start to automatically create assets for you to maximize and leverage all 15 headline placements and all 4 description placements at the max character count. So that's the best practice, to be able to fill out in full the different variable inserts for these ad creations, but that could take a lot of time. This has streamlined the process, but you still have to use the human element of review and making sure it's still on brand. Contextually, it makes sense. If you were to aggregate and try different variation components of those ads, it still aligns to your brand, but also pinning specific ads. If there's certain headlines or certain descriptions that you always want to make sure show up in the automated sort of output, you could also pin specific ones to make sure they're aligned to a brand or an ad group. And then, as I mentioned, with the sort of bid strategies coming into play, there's a lot going on in terms of navigating CPC inflation, not only the inflation that's happening across the economy, but obviously we're seeing as advertisers a drastic increase in costs. And this is where you need to really consider that you're not bidding for clicks anymore. You're bidding to business outcomes. You're bidding to what matters. And aligning the right business strategies and leaning into Google's smart bidding strategies or automated strategies within Meta or TikTok is only going to be powered based on what you ingest back into the algorithm, and moving away from preliminary KPIs. So if you're an advertiser who historically used to just bid to a cost per lead, I'm willing to pay $10 for a phone call or $15 for a lead form, you want to start thinking about what happens after that information, after that lead is collected, after that phone call. Did they qualify to become a customer? Did they purchase? What is the potential value of that customer? And start thinking about it as a lifetime opportunity. If you're an e-commerce play, how often are they purchasing? What is their average lifetime value from a 90-day to 120 to a 365-day sort of cohort? You want to start thinking about it from a bigger impact as to why you're willing to invest more in a specific search query instead of all queries. And it could start to dictate with Google's AI based on that data ingestion when to insert the auction and when not to insert the auction. For a lot of our B2B advertisers, currently, we've moved drastically away from just the initial lead down the marketing sales funnel, from marketing qualified lead to sales qualified lead, to actually ingesting what that sales qualified lead pipeline revenue value might be, and turning actually our bid strategies into a ROAS-based initiative, saying that I don't necessarily care that I want to get one lead at $100. I want to make sure my investment of search ads is a 3-to-1 return on ad spend, and actually leveraging that qualified pipeline data into the auction rather than a cost per lead basis. So start thinking about how you quantify the business outcomes from what you're driving with your ads, and start to use that into your sort of machine learning bidding strategies. And then the last thing from a testing scenario, as Nick even alluded to within the SEO space, is certain types of video content are what's generated clicks within the SERPs. Certain types of influencer content or content creators is very much still what drives a lot of action within the paid social space or a lot of the ad space in general. And a lot of advertisers are going to increase their investments into influencer collaborations or content creators across TikTok or Meta or Snap or Pinterest. There's a lot more of this creator economy out there to tap into. And this is something that should definitely be a line item in your marketing budgets going into next year, that it's not necessarily just product-based initiatives that you could just create graphics for. You have to start leveraging that information, that sort of graphical component to your ads coming from content creators, because that's what users are clicking on. That's what is influencing them to be informed about your brand. And that's something where you should make the mention of adapting towards next year. Some of the ways you could do so is thinking about it not only from just influencers to promote and sponsor specific posts, but how you could actually leverage them to hand over the reins of your product and let them use their creative minds and come up with their own content productions that you can use for different assets across social, for your website, for your email marketing. There's a lot of facets of what you could use that content for. And you can collaborate across the scale of influencers or content creators. You don't necessarily have to go after the mega, Nils of the world who has millions of followers out there. You could go after niche communities, niche influencers who might just be very, very influential based on the creative content they produce, that it's something that they're actually more creative than they don't have necessarily a following, but they produce awesome creative, and it's more impactful to get an action from a view by content that's going to resonate rather than who's it coming from. So think about it from two spectrums, not only the influence one individual might have, but what type of creative they produce that will influence someone to stop mid-scroll and to click on your asset. So to sum it up from the paid media side, AI is definitely what's leading the influence to your testing strategies, where you could typically lean into ingestion of data to influence that AI, what tools you're going to use directly within the platform versus those third-party tools, and how you just make sure you're constantly keeping a tone with the advancements that these platforms are rolling out directly to make sure that you're constantly testing those as a part of your strategy going into through the remainder of next year.
And on top of that, there's other digital marketing strategies that you need to keep in mind, such as email and social. And you need to adapt as things change, especially not just with their algorithms, but with the new features that they release. Typically with social, when they release new features, they push them hard because they want people to use them so you'll get more views and impressions. Or with things like email, if you notice with Apple, a lot of changes are happening in which when people are clicking on a link within an email, the tracking is not going to be the same as it used to be, in which you're not going to be able to track it as much or identify if people are actually clicking or who is, and which will affect your conversion rates as well as how you spend on marketing as well. Now, if you want us to help you with your 2024 marketing blueprint, scan that QR code and we can help you fill out your information, and we'll be in touch with you. And again, if you need help with anything related to marketing, whether it's your blueprint or whether it's your SEO or content or paid or social or conversion optimization, no matter what it is, you can hit us up. Just go to npdigital.com and we can help you map out a strategy. So cool. Let's get into some Q&A.
Right on. Great stuff, everyone. I know we've got about 6 minutes to get through some questions. We'll start. I think this one's best for you. Hello, everyone. Colin from Neil's marketing team. Another great session. Thanks for joining. This has been going on for a while, but I feel like it's on steroids lately, Nikki, with the lines between traditional SEO and social continuing to blur. Do you think SEO and social media will eventually become sort of a merged career?
In my opinion, I think our stance at NPD is to be highly specialized, right? And the reason for that is, as you can tell from this webinar today, things are changing so incredibly fast across each channel. So I think there will continue to be an importance in understanding all of the other channels, right? Like SEO, social signals do matter for SEO. However, I think that you'll want to continue to lean into making sure that you've developed your skills very in depth across each channel. So yeah, there will definitely be crossover between social media, and it'll be another realm that Google kind of understands your popularity as a brand. But I think there's so many ins and outs to every platform that you'll definitely want to make sure you've got somebody who's doing, nothing but SEO all day, every day, nothing but, social media all day, every day, if that's an option for your brand.
Yeah, someone that can do everything. We call it unicorn, basically, and there's not many unicorns out there.
That's right.
Nikki, this one probably best for you. Can you explain the impact of relevancy adjustments and intent shift and how we can stabilize traffic when there is some sort of a big algo update?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is critically important to nail relevancy. And here at NP Digital, we are making sure that we are checking our clients, most important keywords in the SERP all the time, because things can change, right? And we've seen, for example, one of our clients who sells protein powder, we saw a significant shift in the SERP where, protein powder searches used to be a bunch of websites selling protein powder. Then over time, Google completely overhauled the SERP to share listicles of like the best 10 protein powders or the best 5 protein powders for this. So it's definitely something you need to keep a close eye on, always monitor, and look at when the SERP is changing and when the intent is changing. Make sure that you've got the type of content needed to win. So instead of just having, e-commerce transactional pages on your website to sell all of your proteins, maybe you need to start creating some informational content to capture this new type of intent. So it's got to be kind of this ongoing process of always analyzing the SERP, looking at what we know about intent and making sure that you've got the right content to fill those gaps. Because if not, you will start to see decreases in your traffic.
Good stuff. Let's switch over to Chris. I think you're probably best for these two, and then we'll wrap up at the top of the hour. Does third-party cookies affect pixel data, ? Say for Meta and other social channels? Can you elaborate just a bit more on what's coming and what that true impact is?
100%. And that's where it's not only affecting pixel from an audience targeting and user behavior, but it's what's affecting conversion tracking. And that's why the solve a couple years back that was rolled out for Meta and TikTok and others is Conversions API, which is server-side implementation. So this is something that if you have not already enabled for your ad account, it is something that you should definitely be putting on the forefront of rolling out the Conversions API integrations.
Yep. And while we have you, I know you're not in the analytics group, but what predictive analytics tools are out there that you maybe could suggest, Chris? Any that come to mind or any that you're aware of?
So there's a couple out there that we use that are a little bit more kind of going back on the traditional side of media mix modeling for a lot of advertisers that have a plethora of media investments across search, social, programmatic, and traditional, I guess you could say, that's helping to generate more of a predictive investment opportunity or shift in media strategies. Should you have a shift in budget recommendation or increase or a decrease in budget, they can kind of give you an idea based on a point of diminishing returns and historical data where your best bang for your buck is on shifting some of your revenue, some of your media investments. Others, you could, from a predictive standpoint, you could technically export any sort of performance data from Meta or from Google and scrub the campaign names or the ad names or brand information about the client or your brand and insert into ChatGPT's code interpreter and start to get an idea based on how far back of the upload you insert to ask it for prompts on performance analysis or predictive analysis based on ad types or campaign types. So if you just generically identify and limit maybe your ad groups to the different targeting cohorts that you're going after and change the ad names from anything branded to generic ad types, you could ask it prompts specifically to that data set to determine if it can identify any sort of trends analysis or opportunity analysis based on your actual performance data.
It's amazing. AI is nuts. Last one, and I'll try to answer this one. And then Neil, if you've got anything to pile on with. Besides Answer the Public, what other SEO tools does the team use? So Ahrefs is a real popular one with the team at NPD and SEMrush. Those are the two enterprise tools that we use. Answer the Public, of course. Ubersuggest, of course. Neil, if there's any others that you're really fond of, I'm sure the peeps would love to hear from you.
Yeah, Ahrefs for sure, SEMrush as well. Sometimes they use Moz, but it's mainly Ahrefs, SEMrush for the enterprise end.
Yep. It can do all sorts of stuff. And SEMrush is a public company, which is crazy in of itself. But that's it.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining. If you need help with your marketing, check us out, npdigital.com.
Bye, everyone.
My name is Neil Patel, and I help companies generate more revenue through digital marketing. Entrepreneur Magazine said I was the #1 marketer in the world, and they also said I created one of the 100 most brilliant companies. I started my first website at the age of 16. I took all the money that I earned from working at an amusement park, and I paid a marketing firm. The marketing firm provided no results, and I quickly learned that I wasn't alone. Out of my frustration and from being broke, I had no choice but to learn marketing. My first client was a power supply manufacturer. I helped them generate another $25 million in sales, and from that point, I realized the power of marketing. I helped everyone that I could, and I built my reputation by being honest and over-delivering. I've helped companies like Google, NBC, Viacom, General Motors, eBay, but nothing's more satisfying than helping small business owners succeed. I founded 4 multi-million-dollar companies, and I've learned all the mistakes that you should avoid. I've written about them on Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., Fast Company, and even on my own blogs. It's so awesome to know that colleges from all around the world are teaching my material in their classroom. Over the years, I've received awards from the President of the United States, the House of Representatives, and the United Nations. People believe marketing is expensive and difficult. Fortunately, that's not true. There is a formula. Even if you don't have a technical bone in your body, you can get results. And my mission is to share this formula with you.